This is my winter outlook for 2025 and 2026, and it promises to be a beast of a winter with snowstorms, blizzards, ice storms, severe weather, and drought. So we're going to be looking at all of that in this forecast. We're going to be going region by region, month by month, looking at your temperature, precipitation outlooks, how much snow you could see, how much ice you could see, also severe weather forecasts, and much more in this video. So if you do enjoy it, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and share it with a friend, family member, and on social media, because you don't want to look like this guy walking to work. I will keep you updated with all of the winter storms that we see this season. Every snowflake will be accounted for, and so make sure to subscribe to my channel. We'll keep you ahead of all the storms. So subscribe, like the video, share it with a friend, family member, and on social media. We'll keep you ahead of all the storms this winter. Let's start off with your climate analysis. The equatorial Pacific is where we turn our eyes for a lot of colder temperatures in the ocean, and that has leaned us closer to a weak La Nina state of climate here across the world and across North America. Now, this warm blob of water in the North Pacific is important as well. This is what we call the PDO. This is the Pacific Decadal Oscillation, and it was at record levels just a couple of months ago, right? At -4 standard deviations. And that has never happened before on record. And with records dating back to 1852, this could be a very different winter and a very different beast. So let's look here at some of the analogs for this year for a city like Chicago in the Midwest. It was the third coldest winter on record, 2013 and 2014. One of the analogs for this winter, and that is just behind 1903 and 04 and 1978 and 79. Obviously, the second one is what a lot of us remember as being a harshly cold winter. And looking back to 2013 and 2014, 18.8 degrees Fahrenheit was your average temperature that winter in the city of Chicago. Also, 2013 and 2014 was the third snowiest winter on record in the Windy City, with almost 70 inches worth of snowfall. So we know that neutral winters and even weak La Ninas can produce a lot of heavy snowfall and big blizzards across the city of Chicago and all across the Midwest. So let's dive deeper into the ENSO state of the atmosphere and the background state of the atmosphere for one. And looking here at the negative 0.8 on the index here, and this is where we are looking at potentially into a weak La Nina phase, as the Climate Prediction Center will be coming back here in a couple of weeks and actually saying that this is probably going to be a weak La Nina, but it's only weak, so it's a variable pattern. And if we look at the forecast from the Climate Prediction Center, that gray bar is neutral. I do think we start as a weak La Nina in December, and we transition to a neutral pattern in January and February, just in time to start the year of 2026. So what does this mean? Well, a La Nina brings a lot of variability to the pattern depending on where you are in the United States or North America for that matter. A very powerful polar jet stream brings colder air and sometimes even Siberian air down across Western Canada and flooding into the northern United States like the Northern Plains and into the upper Midwest Great Lakes. It also brings a Pacific jet stream across the Pacific Northwest, bringing much above normal precipitation. And this is again a cookie cutter La Nina, and this could bring a drier pattern down across the south central United States before those jet streams coalesce into the Ohio Valley, bringing much above normal precipitation there. And that could be a variable pattern. One week we could have snowstorms and blizzards. The next week we could have a lot of heavy rainfall, flooding, and severe weather. So it's going to be a variable pattern in the Ohio Valley, I do feel, this winter season. Let's also look at the neutral winters, because we're going to start as a weak La Nina in December. We're going to transition likely to a neutral state of our climate into January and February of 2026. Those neutral winters did produce a lot of harsh cold across the north central United States. You can see with the medium and deeper blues up here, that was a pretty harsh winter for areas there into the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and much of the surrounding states into the Midwest. It was also an average winter as far as precipitation is concerned. It was very active across the Pacific Northwest, very active into the southeast and up the eastern seaboard, and it was drier across the southern plains along the southwest and the west coast, including the Sacramento Valley in California. So looking back at January 27 and 28 of 2000 was also a neutral winter, brought a historic snowstorm to the state of Arkansas, with areas south of Little Rock getting double-digit snowfall, over a foot of snow in many areas south of Little Rock. So we know even the mid and and lower Mississippi Valley can cash in on snowfall even during an ENSO neutral. So if you are liking the video so far, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Again, subscribe to the channel and share it with a friend, family member, and on social media. Now let's dive into the specifics of the forecast. Let's look here at the Climate Prediction Center's seasonal temperature outlook from December 2025 to February 2026. Notice they are leaning below normal up here into the Pacific Northwest with that polar jet coming down and a more active jet stream and overall bringing colder air. I think it is reasonable to say that Washington State and Oregon will be below normal with their temperatures when you average all 3 of the months out. Equal chances of above or below normal across a large chunk of the United States, including the central and northern states. Above normal temperatures are favored from Arizona into New Mexico, including much of the desert Southwest, along the Gulf Coast and Florida, all the way up the eastern seaboard to Maine, likely bending above normal with our temperatures. Now, with the seasonal precipitation outlook from the Climate Prediction Center between December 2025 and February 2026, active Pacific jet stream will bring potentially even some atmospheric rivers to the Pacific Northwest and into the northern Rockies before potentially coalescing those 2 jet streams, the polar jet and the Pacific jet together, bringing bigger low pressure systems to the Ohio Valley. Again, this could mean a lot of snow, a lot of rain, and even some severe weather in the mix. So it will be a variable pattern in this region as we go into the winter. Below normal and drought conditions are likely to expand from Southern California eastward into Arizona, New Mexico, along the Gulf Coast, and into the southeast coast, including much of the state of Florida, where we will be below normal with our precipitation. But don't get me wrong, even though we're below normal here, I think we're still seeing precipitation at times this season, just less than we normally see. Now, here's my forecast for December 2025 for your U.S. temperature outlook. In the white, that's where we see average temperatures. Notice in the lighter blue, slightly below normal temperatures are favored from the northern plains into the Midwest, Great Lakes, parts of the Ohio Valley, and into interior sections of the Northeast. That's where we could have some cold shots as we go into December. And then we see warmer air slightly above in the yellow, moderately above in the orange, and I think we're pretty decently above from Texas Hill Country into New Mexico, Arizona, southern Utah, southern Nevada, and into southern California for December. Now we look at the precipitation for December 2025. Very active Pacific jet stream. The Pacific Decadal Oscillation, or the PDO, is -4. That is going to force a very powerful jet stream into the Pacific Northwest this December, bringing a lot of heavy rain and upper elevation snowfall to the Cascades into Washington State and Oregon this season. That may bleed into the Rockies of Idaho, into Montana and Wyoming. A very active December is in store. And then here into the Midwest, Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, especially the northern Ohio Valley. Slightly above normal precipitation is expected there with the jet streams coming together, both the Pacific jet stream and the polar jet, creating larger low pressure systems, bigger snowstorms, maybe even some severe weather outbreaks in December as well. Now across the southern tier, we're looking at slightly below to moderately below there in orange from the desert Southwest and into the southeast. Areas that are in the moderately below could really start to intensify the drought, so we'll have to watch that into December. Now the storm track in December will be from the Pacific Northwest down here into the central Rockies, or what we call the Colorado lows. They bring a lot of moisture to the areas of the Midwest and bring some bigger snowstorms historically to areas like Kansas City, Des Moines, St. Louis, and Chicago. So we have to keep an eye on that for December of 2025. Now let's move into January. As we turn the new calendar over into 2026, moderately below normal temperatures are favored, as a lot more significant cold shots will be coming down from Siberia or even Canada and into the north central states. So I think it's going to get much colder up there. And we're going to see a positive P&A, which is basically seeing warmer conditions across the southwest, the southern U.S. near the Gulf Coast, and the southeast. And some of that warmth could spread up into the mid-Atlantic for January as well. Now, a very active January is in store as we are starting to shift from a weak La Nina now to a neutral into our climate pattern. And this is going to bring, again, more of those atmospheric rivers into the Pacific Northwest. And if you all know about science, right, what goes up must come down. So it's going to bring colder air down from Canada, but we're also going to see a lot of momentum from that jet stream in the Pacific Northwest, which will lead to the Midwest, Great Lakes, and Northern Ohio Valley cashing in on moderately above normal precipitation in January. This could include very large snowstorms, blizzards perhaps, and potentially ice storms with severe weather. So we'll have a variable pattern here in January. Drier, especially in the Sacramento Valley, nosing into Nevada, and drier a little bit across the Gulf Coast, Southeast Coast, and the Mid-Atlantic. But again, it won't be just zero precipitation. We'll have some rain and snow down here, but I think it will be less than normal. Because of the cold air coming southward in January, the storm track's going to shift a little bit further south because colder air is drier air, so we're going to still see those systems coming in across the Pacific Northwest, but they're going to be diving further south toward North Texas, those Texas hook type of clippers and those bigger storms that come out of that. Areas like Chicago, Indianapolis, St. Louis, and Kansas City have all cashed in notoriously in January on these bigger storm systems with this favored track, giving bigger blizzards to those areas. Now, in February 2026, well below normal temperatures are expected, especially up there near the U.S.-Canadian border of North Dakota and Minnesota, as we could have some major cold shots coming down there late in the winter season. That could bleed down further south, so we're not immune to that in Des Moines, Chicago, Indianapolis, or even Dayton, Ohio either. So we're going to be seeing moderately below normal temperatures there. And notice the light blue area goes pretty far south into the Missouri Ozarks region and south of the Ohio River, for example. Well above normal temperatures there into the desert Southwest, into Death Valley, for example. Phoenix going over there toward Albuquerque. Because the drought will intensify in December and January, we're going to see the drier ground. It's going to heat up a lot faster. It is a desert after all, and we're going to continue to see drier weather over there. So a lot of drought continuing to develop. We're still seeing some drier weather abnormally across the Gulf Coast and the East Coast as well. Now, we are going to start to shut off the jet stream a little bit, at least the strength of it, across the Pacific Northwest once we go into February 2026. Very amped up jet stream, though, east of the Mississippi River. I think into the Ozarks, but especially the Illinois Valley and into the Great Lakes region. We could see moderately above to well above precipitation in February. Bigger blockbuster snow systems, blizzards, ice storms, and severe weather outbreaks, tornado outbreaks even included, will all be possible as we go into February 2026. The storm track will likely be from Texas up through the Tennessee Valley and the I-95 corridor to the northwest of those lows. We could expect a lot of cold and a lot of heavy snow. So here is my winter 2025-2026 8-inch plus snowstorm risk. So this means all of the snowstorms are not going to be big ones, right? But the big ones that we could see could be 8 inches or more, right? And that is most favored in one snowstorm, 8 inches or more across the Cascades, obviously in the upper elevations, because we're going to see a lot of atmospheric rivers. So very likely there. The Rockies are going to cash in as well with the momentum of that jet stream moving across the Rockies. The Sierras in California could still see very likely 8 inches or more in one system, but I think it's going to be less frequent than the years past because the moisture supply is shut off in this region. Now, the area that could see some bigger, notoriously big snowstorms, potentially historic, could be the Midwest, the Great Lakes, and the Northern Ohio Valley. Places like Chicago, St. Louis, Des Moines, Green Bay, Milwaukee, into Detroit, Indianapolis, Fort Wayne, and Toledo. You're in store for potentially several big 8-inch plus snowstorms this winter season in the very likely category. Also, on the warm side of those systems, we could be seeing severe weather slightly above normal severe weather season in yellow across a large chunk of the southeastern United States, as well as well above normal severe weather in orange. That includes the Tennessee Valley, parts of the Ohio Valley, Dixie Alley, and down there toward Florida. We'll be keeping an eye on that. Tornado outbreaks can still occur during the winter season. That is for sure, as you have bigger low pressure systems that develop in the Central Plains, a warm front that lifts north into the Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, and a cold front, a powerful cold front from these stronger low pressure systems sweeping eastward. That will give you plenty of lift and instability for a lot of dangerous severe weather this winter season. So we even have to watch out for the severe weather side as well. Here's the fun part, folks. This is the U.S. regional breakdown of the winter. In the Pacific Northwest, mild and wet into areas like Seattle, Portland, Boise, Billings, Helena, and even Cheyenne, Wyoming. We could be seeing a wetter winter, but milder at times as well, as the mild air over the North Pacific is going to bleed into the Pacific Northwest. But the upper elevations, the Cascades, will really really cash in on the heavy snowfall there into Washington State and Oregon as we go through the winter season, especially in January and February. Now, as we go here into the desert Southwest and orange, Sacramento, into Reno, into Las Vegas, Salt Lake City, Denver, Albuquerque, Tucson, Flagstaff, and Phoenix, we're going to be seeing a warm and very dry winter this season. Doesn't mean we're going to see no moisture, but it does mean it's going to trend a lot drier and warmer as the drought will intensify across this region. In the blue, in the north central United States, very cold, very snowy, a lot of cold shots, a lot of clipper systems, a lot of big low pressure systems that could bring multiple snowstorms and blizzards, potentially historic snowstorms and blizzards to the Midwest as we go into the winter season. We're talking about Bismarck, Fargo, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Milwaukee, Chicago, Indianapolis, Dayton, all the way back to Kansas City, St. Louis, Wichita, and Lincoln, Nebraska, large area that could be at risk for a very cold and snowy winter this season. In the yellow, down there in the southern plains, we're talking about Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Dallas, San Antonio, Houston, Little Rock, all the way down into Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Shreveport, and Jackson, Mississippi. We're looking at an average winter. We could have some rain events, could have some snow events, some warmer times, some colder times, just kind of an average winter when you average all months out, December, January, and February down here into the lower Mississippi Valley and the southern plains. In the purple, we are looking here at the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. It's going to be cold. We're going to have some icy conditions at times and snowy conditions at times. We're talking about Portland, Maine, Boston, Hartford, Providence, down to New York City, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., Trenton, down into Pittsburgh, Charleston, West Virginia, Roanoke, Richmond, and back into even Lexington, Kentucky, where we could be seeing colder conditions, icy conditions, and snowy conditions there throughout the winter season. In the red, warm and severe weather for the Tennessee Valley into the southeast. We're looking at in Nashville, Chattanooga, over into Raleigh and Asheville, Columbia, Myrtle Beach, and Charleston, down into Atlanta, into Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, and Huntsville, and Mobile, and then into Florida. We're talking about Tampa Bay, Miami, and also Jacksonville and Gainesville. We're going to be looking at warmer times and severe weather with a lot of instability across the southeast this winter season. If you did enjoy my winter forecast for 2025 and 26, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel as we'll keep you ahead of all of the winter storms, blizzards, ice storms, severe weather, tornado outbreaks, windy conditions, and everything in between. So make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video if you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, share it with a friend, family member, and on social media. Also comment in the comment section down below if you want to talk about what you can expect for the winter season and what you think will happen as well. And enjoy all of what winter has to offer. I think a lot of cold and a lot of snow is coming in the forecast. So enjoy all of the snowfall this winter season, everybody.